Oh, hey everyone, we have another returning guest. Ian Grame is back on, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his house hack. Ian, introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Yeah, my name is Ian Grame. I am a licensed realtor here in Northeast Ohio. Specialize in the Cleveland area mostly, and that's me. That's the short and sweet of it.
Awesome. Yeah, and he's already been on the podcast, so you can check out his last one. He was one of my first guests. So he's recently picked up a duplex, and I really want to dig into this and see how this is going. So whereabouts is this duplex?
So this one's in it's on the east side of Cleveland, just north of Garfield Heights in the Corlett area.
Awesome. And this is an up down, and you're living in the bottom floor, right?
That's correct. Yep.
So what were you looking at when you bought this? Because you said you're putting a little bit of work done in the downstairs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, funny story. The way I actually found this house, like I said, I'm a realtor. I had a out of state client, a Florida investor, and he every once in a while he'll see a property. He's like, hey, like, check this one out for me. So he wanted to check this house out. So I did a video walkthrough for him. And at the end of the tour, I was like, hey, what do you think? He's like, I don't know, man. It needs a lot of work, and I don't know. It just seems like too much for me. I was like, okay. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of meat on the bone here potentially. I mean, especially if we get this under list price, like you could rent this thing out and make a lot of money. He's like, I'm not interested. So he passed on it. I was like, hey, I hope you don't mind. I'm putting an offer on this. So so he ended up finding the house for me. And I ended up getting it. So it was listed at 80, ended up getting it at 67 with 2% back. So basically 65K. So got a significantly under list price.
Awesome. And did you take lending out on this? You bought it cash? How
Yeah.
did you do this? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I got approved for a conventional loan, so I only had to put 5% down, which is great.
And then you said you got 2% kicked back for like seller concessions?
Yep, yep. And then also, since I'm a realtor, I got a buyer agency or a buyer agent commission too on top of that, which is great because I represented myself.
That's awesome. So with all that, what was your all into this deal to just get it purchased?
So just to purchase, it was probably about around 60, around 64, right around there.
Yeah, that's pretty low for getting into a deal. And now let's dig into more well, how you walked into this. You have an upstairs tenant, you said?
Yep. So I bought the house with an upstairs tenant. He has been here about 4 years. Pays right now he pays 825 a month. Pays his rent early every month, and he's been a great tenant so far. So walked into a good situation there.
Yeah, someone paying early every month. That's very rare.
It is. Yep. Especially in Cleveland.
Yes. So, and then you have your lower unit that you're living in.
Yep.
How big is the unit? Is it a one
So
bed, a
it's
two bed?
about Yeah, so it's a two bed, one bath. It's about 800 square feet. And then I forgot to mention this earlier. So the upstairs, the second floor is the same. So it's a two bed, one bath, 800 square feet. But there's also a finished third floor. And so the upstairs tenant, he's renting that. It's combined as part of his rent, but it's finished. It's got a bathroom. It's got two other separate rooms as well. So I mean, realistically, you're looking at three finished floors.
Awesome. And you said you've had some work on this bottom floor that you're living in, and you've been doing most of it yourself?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm still learning how to do some things. So some things I hired out. So actually the hardwood I just got the hardwood floors done last week, and took the advice of a friend who said, if you don't know what you're doing, maybe you want to hire that one out. So I did that, hired that out. But most of the other stuff I've done actually myself, and actually pretty much all of it. So. Yeah, I've been doing most of the work myself. I mean, the bottom unit was not in amazing shape. It needed like carpet, paint, some drywall patching here and there, a little bit of plumbing, but it wasn't super extensive.
Gotcha. And I see you're starting to put decorations on and see in the background.
Yeah, finally got to that point where I'm
Yeah.
doing a little decorations and it's starting to feel like a home. So
Awesome. So you kind of told us about how you found it, state of the home. And let's cover from our last talk too. Like you moved to Cleveland, right? You weren't here forever. So
yeah, that's correct. I grew up in Cleveland, moved away right after college. I've been traveling different countries, different states, and then I just moved back to Cleveland a couple of years ago. So
yeah.
yeah.
And were you a realtor when you moved back, or how did that work?
No, so I'd been interested in real estate for a while. I had a few friends that were making quite a bit of money doing real estate, and so I'd looked into it for years. But I actually just when I moved back to Cleveland 2 years ago was when I got my real estate license.
Awesome. So, I mean, you've obviously been active in the business, and I know you're working with a lot of investors. How's that been? I know it's kind of a challenge working with investors sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't know exactly what the close rate is on, properties under contract with investors. It's definitely lower than you would find with your typical end home buyer just because of the nature of the game. So a lot of these investors are out of state or out of country. And then there's the fact that a lot of these houses are not in great condition. So you're kind of rolling the dice. You look at a house and you're like, oh, well, it seems okay. And then you turn the utilities on and there's leaks everywhere and things like that. So it's definitely more complex. But also at the same time, it's what I'm interested in because I like helping people make money, and so to me, like that side of real estate is more interesting to me than, potentially just helping a family find a home, although I love that too. So
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean, if you weren't working with investors, you probably wouldn't have came across this deal that you're living in now. So,
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, one thing I love about getting my license is that the way I look at it is this: it's like I'm actually getting paid to learn how to invest on a daily basis. Every day I'm talking to my investor clients. They're like, "Hey, check out this deal," or "Hey, what do you think about this deal? How about this for a flip or this for a long-term rental?" And I'm literally learning from a bunch of really savvy investors what works for them, and then also sometimes what doesn't work for them, but I'm basically getting paid to do it. So in my opinion, it's like if you're someone that's looking to get into real estate and you don't know where to start, yeah, you could go the wholesaling route. That's totally fine too. But I would highly recommend looking at getting your license. Maybe pay $1,500, get your license, and then you're going to get paid on the job. So highly recommend it.
yeah, and I mean, I know you hustle, so as long as you're willing to hustle and put in the work, because you're going to show a lot of properties that aren't going to close. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that I honestly I love showing houses too when sometimes I'll look at a house and my client's like, yeah, it's not quite the greatest deal for me. And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, well, this might work for me. So,
yeah,
so it's almost like that safety net. Like I'm looking at properties every day and like I'm seeing deals or potential deals all the time too. So,
yeah. So, what are your plans moving forward with this duplex? Are you going to live it in a while, or are you thinking about doing this again with another property? What do you got going on?
yeah, so that's a great question. So, like I said, I got a conventional loan on this. From what I understand, it's typically about a year that you have to reside
Yep.
in your primary before you can switch to a new primary. Otherwise, the underwriters might start to, raise red flags.
Yes.
One of the lenders I talked to said you might be able to potentially do it in 6 months. So I guess there's a window there that 3 months from now I might be able to, because I closed on this one in March. There's a potential I might be able to do another conventional loan, but it sounds like it's more likely it's going to be about 9 months out. So I guess my plan at the moment is to, finish fixing this up. I still have some work to do on the outside. I'm going to end up painting it. I'm still working on a little bit of fascia boards, and I got to reattach the gutter, a couple other things here and there, just minor stuff. But once I'm done with it, basically, I'm gonna live here until that 9 month window is up, so I can hop into another house on a conventional loan. Or if I save up enough money and I can do, get 25% down to do like a DSCR on another, that I would do that all day long too. So
Awesome. And you said the top's running for 825. Is that what you said? What do you
yep.
think that, and this is pretty much mirroring the bottom. Do you think since there's not a third floor, you might get a little less for yours, or because of the condition that you're making it, you should be able to get that rate or higher?
Yeah, so honestly, the tenant upstairs, he's under market rent because,
Okay.
like I said, he's got it's a 3-2 basically. It's in pretty decent shape. I mean, it's the house is 100 years old, but it's a nice unit. So, I mean, his market rent's probably more like 900, 950, something like that. And then this bottom unit, once it is finished, I think I could get at least 900 for it. I could see if I decided to go the Section 8 route, obviously I'd have to redo the windows because I still have wood windows right now. But if I decided to do that, I mean I could rent this out Section 8 for probably 10 or 1100, I think.
Okay. So what's your mortgage or your all in, your PITI on this right now?
So yeah, it's crazy. My PITI is 571 a month.
Right. And so you are, well, I don't, what are your utilities looking like? Are you like breaking even or are you actually making money living in this house right now?
It depends on the month, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, water and sewer is like $100. Electricity and gas, maybe I don't know, $100 each, something like that. I don't. I'm making a little bit of money every month, unless you take into account like my uh, Wi-Fi and things like that. But basically, I'm making a little bit of money every month just living here.
I mean, in today's market, if you find most people are just trying to lower their expenses getting into a house hack. So if you're getting into a house hack where you're living for free, like I'm there too, but I also have to rent out a room in my two bedroom, one bath and rent out the upstairs in order to do so. to
Yeah.
actually make money living there. You're doing it by just living in your unit and renting out the upstairs, which is amazing. So
hmm Yeah,
yeah,
and it's only a duplex too. I mean, to be honest, like most people that hop into a situation like this, it's at least like a triple or a quad where they're, covering their entire mortgage. So
yeah, definitely. But more units, yes, you can get more cash flow, and especially where you're buying, it's hard to find properties that don't take a lot of work. But usually, people that are selling these duplexes, tries or quads, you're putting some work into them. So
yeah, typically, yeah. I mean, I found a great deal, and like I said, I'm fortunate enough to know how to do quite a bit of this stuff on my own, so I can save quite a bit of money there as well. And the other thing too is honestly, I closed on this house 3 months ago. I was under contract, 4 or 5 months ago. I mean, even in the last 4 or 5 months, I'm seeing like prices of duplexes and multifamilies here in Cleveland is just going through the roof because you have, I mean, what's going on like across the US? Mortgage rates are still high. There's a housing unaffordability crisis, basically. So people are just looking everywhere they can to move and live. So you have people relocating to Cleveland and other, affordable cities. And then you have people too that want to invest. Like I actually put out this, I saw this stat a little while ago that across the US, 19% of properties purchased are investment properties or purchased by investors. In Cleveland, it's 25%. So we're significantly higher than the national average. And that's just because housing is affordable here and rents are actually going up very, very quickly as well to try to catch up with the national average. So it's an amazing place to invest.
yeah, I talk to people about that all the time because there's so many people that aren't investing in real estate that are just living, complaining about like the cost of rent or the cost of buying a house, and I'm like, we are in one of the we're a very affordable state compared to nation average. So like start looking around. You're probably not going to find anything much cheaper than this. So
Right. Yeah. No, I see people complain all the time. They're like, I can't afford to buy a house. I'm like, well, so there's truth in that, right? I get that, but maybe you could like not spend $15 on coffee every day and have like $100 worth of streaming, bill every month for Netflix and Hulu and all those other things too. So there's that aspect, but then there's also the fact too that it's just like we live in one of the most affordable places in the country right now.
yeah,
Like I was just looking, Zillow said the average salary required to afford a house, again, this is average across the U.S., is $106,000 right now. So you need an average of $106,000 salary to afford a house. Granted, in Cleveland, it's going to be less. So we're very fortunate to be under that number. But if you think about it across the U.S., how many families are making 100K a year plus? Not the majority, that's
yeah.
for sure.
And I mean, even national average. I mean, if you're in the top 7% of people, if you're making 150 grand, top 7%
Mhm.
of people in the entire country.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more than that, buying houses. So I know like you said 106 grand to, average to buy a house. That's usually two incomes working. But
Mhm.
yeah, most people I wouldn't say most, a lot more people are waking up to this idea of house hacking, whether it's room by room, whether it's a duplex, triplex, or quad. And it's a lot of the people, like you said the word I can't, like people saying I can't earlier. It's that
Mhm.
mindset that we talked about like
Yeah.
in the first podcast that they're just shutting themselves down right away rather than trying to think of how can I? Because you can buy a house. It just might take you, maybe you can't buy it right now. Maybe it's going to take you a year or two to build up to it. But
Right.
most people aren't willing to do that.
Right. Yeah. And there's other ways too, right? So I mean, I think we just talked earlier before we started this podcast about how you're doing on one of your units, right? Renting out individual rooms.
Yeah.
So I mean that's another way to do it. It's just there's always ways to get something done. It's just a lot of it comes down to being determined and having a creative mindset as well.
Right. And, you're giving up a little bit. Like realistically, most people don't want to live with roommates, but if it's going to help you pay your rent or afford a house, then why not? When we were younger, we were living with roommates and all renting without a problem.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem once you switch to buying the house? So,
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. We all, we want to have our cake and eat it too. And I get that. We've been spoiled as a country for a
yeah.
long time. Just absolute, just wealth and just abundance. But as times will probably start to get a little bit tighter and economically and things get a little bit tougher, like we're going to have to reassess what's important. And I was just looking at the stat the other day. I think it was from last year, but it's like the average net worth of someone who rents their entire life is like $8,000 or $9,000 versus the average equity or net worth of people that own a home. It's 400K plus. So I mean, you just look at that disparity. And granted, there's other factors that come into play too, right? But the bottom line is owning a home is one of the best ways that you can build net worth and equity for yourself over the course of your life.
Yeah, we have this amazing product in the US called a 30-year mortgage. A lot of other
Yeah,
countries don't have that. I mean, outside of, utilities and taxes going up, you can fix your monthly payment on your housing by buying a
mm,
house. So,
yeah,
and for people thinking and saying, always saying rates are too high, I'm going to buy when the rates drop. Well, guess what? The house prices are going to go up if rates drop 2%.
absolutely,
And guess what? If you buy now and you could afford it and rates do happen to drop, go ahead and refinance and save yourself a couple hundred
exactly.
dollars a month.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
this is one of the only countries in the world, if not the only, I'm not a lender, so I don't know, but that will actually allow you to lock in a 30-year fixed rate. I mean, it's just to me, it's absolutely incredible that that like anyone would lend money for 30 years out, be like, we don't know what's going to happen 30 years out. We don't really care, but we're going to lock you in at 6% or 5 or 7 or whatever the case is. Like you think about how risky of an investment that is.
yeah.
But our government has actually passed laws to allow us to do that, just so people like you and me can own homes and build wealth.
Yeah, and they, back those loans or buy those loans up, so they have I mean, yeah, most banks and you see I mean in the private sector, you're not seeing these types of products especially not at these rates or you're paying crazy closing costs and points to lock in rates this long. But yeah, these loans that we're getting, I mean, they're getting bought up by mortgage house by, Fannie and Freddie Mac and other government backed programs. So that's why we have this. Like most places aren't going to let you, or most banks aren't going to let you put 3% down or, 0% down with a VA loan when you're actually there, the VA is guaranteeing the loan if you were prior service. So there's things like that that like help these loan products be able to be written, which is awesome. Um and they're there for us to learn and people just don't want to take the extra time to figure out how to use them properly. Like
Right.
there's a whole freaking list of rules pretty much saying this is what you need to do to qualify. Look at that, and yes, maybe you don't qualify now. Take some time and figure out how you can.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're so blessed, and honestly, and that's why they say that more millionaires are made in real estate than any other area because the laws were written for us. They were written for people that own real estate because people that own real estate wrote the laws. So,
Yeah.
so I say, why not take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. People that own real estate wrote the laws. I mean, you could look at it as the these laws are in place because the government doesn't want to deal with housing, but realistically, it's the people that wrote the laws put them in place so that they could benefit themselves. That's what it comes down
Absolutely.
to.
That's the
So,
way our government works.
yep. So instead of complaining and complaining and complaining, people like you and me are out there going, okay, they put these laws in place. Let's figure out how I can use them to my advantage. If the people put the laws in place are doing it and it's benefiting them, it can benefit me too. The laws are
Right.
there for everyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, and that can go down a deep rabbit hole when we get into, some of the tax loopholes and things like that.
Oh
So,
yeah. That could turn into a 2 or 3 hour podcast.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first duplex, this is great. You're helping investors. We talked a little bit before about a sub two deal you're talking about, but what are your outlook and plans moving forward, say the next couple years?
Next couple of years. So as of now, my goal is to basically build as much passive income through rentals as I possibly can as quickly as I can. So, the more houses I can own, the better. Obviously, that's if I can pick them up sub two, great. If I, get them on the market, great. Whatever the case may be, I want to pick up as many as I can because my midterm goal is to basically be able to retire from basically working or real estate so I can kind of pursue some other interests and passions. Not that I'll step aside from real estate completely because I enjoy it and I like helping people as well. But I really want that freedom to just be able to do whatever I want and go wherever I want. And so that's kind of my midterm plan. And so that's looking like me picking up houses as quickly as I can.
Gotcha. So now you say picking up houses as quickly as you can. What are you looking at for reserves? Because obviously you want to keep those houses as well. Do you have a plan on
Yeah,
what you're keeping in reserves?
I haven't really got into that yet. Like I'm always someone who's pretty conservative with finances. So I always typically have money in my bank account. I'm not someone that's living paycheck to paycheck. So if, something crazy happens, I need to put a new roof on a house. Like I'm always should have enough money to be able to do that. And I don't want to stretch myself too thin. So I
Right.
haven't actually, to answer your question, I haven't taken out an Excel spreadsheet yet and run all the
Gotcha.
numbers as far as what I need for CapEx. But I do think I've heard people say anywhere between 1% and 4% of the value of the house, just leave that aside for repairs and CapEx per year. And I think 4% is pretty high, but I wouldn't imagine I would need, anything above that probably. So
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah, so I really like where you're going, and we like I don't know if the audience doesn't know, but we met at a sub two meetup in Cleveland, and we see each other from time to time, and there's some of the greatest people in these meetups, and people that are really doing the business. So, I mean, if you weren't going to these meetups, or if I wasn't going to these meetups, we would have never met.
Mhm.
And that's part of this business. People also have to get out there and meet people instead of going out to eat every night. Go to these meetups. They usually have free food at most of them.
Exactly.
Go
Yeah,
get
go
your
out to
dinner
eat
there.
there. It's true. Yeah, and I think that's great advice. Like if you want to advance, where you're at as far as real estate or anything else, just go out and meet people. Go to meetups, go to events. Just post on Facebook. Say, hey, I'm interested in learning about this. Like, who can
Yeah.
help me out? And your thousand friends on Facebook will start messaging you and say, hey, I know a guy, or hey, I was actually interested in this too. Before you know it, you got five contacts, and you're going to be working on a deal together.
Yeah, one of my small mastermind groups, that's the biggest like ongoing joke, but it's true though. It's always like everybody's looking for somebody and it's always, hey, I know a guy. Like it's always that like everybody's like that's the thing. It's like, oh, I know a guy for that. And
Hmm.
usually somebody in the group does. So
Right. Yeah, the power of networking.
yeah. All right, Ian. Well, I'm so happy you came on. Congratulations on getting into your first house hack.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
what do you want to leave my audience, somebody that's looking into house hacking and getting into their first property?
Yeah, I think I would just say this. Look into investing in real estate. So if you're not already, okay, even if you're just someone that's like, oh, I'm renting a house right now, I don't know what to do. I'd like to invest in real estate. Look into a house hack. Like I said, there's different ways to do it, but it's as things get tighter and tighter economically, like this is going to become a bigger and bigger thing. And if you have the know-how and the knowledge right now how to do it, you can start looking for deals and you can start looking for partners, you can start looking for lenders, and you can get something like this taken care of. Whereas if you wait 5 years, and then you might actually be at a point 5 years from now where you'll never actually be able to afford to buy a house, right? We're still in a situation now where it's very affordable. You just need to know what to do. So I would say that just look into things, learn, call me, call somebody, right? And just like go to meetups and just figure out how some of this stuff works if you're a newbie. And trust me, it'll pay its dividends in the long run.
Awesome. So if my audience wanted to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can maybe put my info down in the link or something like
Yep,
that. But
sure can.
yeah, you can call me, message me, email me, whatever.
Yep, I'll put that all in the description of the video as well, and I'll link your socials too. I think I have all that from the last video we did.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah. All right, Ian, thanks so much for coming on, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Paul.